All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It is April 30th. Hope everyone's feeling well. It is Tuesday. This is one of my old school favorites. Anyway, take a look at disclosure. Let's get to it. You guys remember this song? Nothing like a little raw-based radio in the morning on a Tuesday morning on April 30th, right before SMCI earnings, AMD earnings, and FOMC. As we get our day going, get our preparation intact. Hope everyone's feeling well. My name is Scott Redler. I am the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. It is another day. Yesterday was an interesting one. A few little trappy type actions, but ultimately in stride. Before we get into it, let me say hello to some of my dogs around the world. Who do we got in the house? We got It's in the house. Time to make the donuts. By the way, at Dunkin' Donuts, my two usuals left. They went to Minnesota. I feel lost, but I still have my Dunkin' Donuts. Two new individuals. We move on, right? Life's about moving on. Everyone's not in the same place, and new relationships, new beginnings, and sometimes you could have a new beginning for yourself, right? We got Glenn from Nebraska. We got Bobby 4.0, who keeps me honest. We got Ryan in the house. We got Scotty Gids. What up, Red Dog? Red Bank is here. That's cool. We got Mr. K from London. We got Be Well from Austin. We got the Alpha team tuning in. All right. Let's jump up, and one more time. Anyway, I don't know why I put this up. This was a trip that I went to Spain. I went to Spain last summer. My good buddy Marco took care of us, and I got to say Marbella is awesome. I'm putting together another trip for the family for late August, considering that Chase plays varsity basketball, so we're not allowed to go on vacation, and lacrosse. We can't go on spring break, so we're going to do an August trip. Might do Iceland. But anyway, before it's all over, everybody, got to spend time with the family because you never know when things move on, and you're always going to want to go back to where you were. So, but with that being said, what up, Blair? Here we are. Okay, the future's down 7-8 handles. Not a whole lot going on around the world. Europe is off a little after a big run. Asia's taking a breath after outperformance. Yesterday I thought was a little tricky. Kind of cute to the fact that that we kind of rallied on Thursday into Friday because of Google and Microsoft results. And those are the first things that they sold yesterday. So if you happen to be long them, you didn't do anything wrong, except the trade changed a little bit, which we'll get into. And then you had the laggards from the first quarter, like an Apple and a Tesla, that were playing big time catch up. That gave you some clues to be long, but not blaring clues. And then you had everything else kind of digesting, getting ready to see what's next. So if you go here to the chart of the S&P cash, if you do remember, we hit a low at 49.53 on April 19th. That's when I put the blood in the street account to work. Two quick moves, quick bounce up to 5,089 prior to Meta, prior to IBM, giving you a way to trim into that strength, a higher low, closed well, and then here we are. So in order to sustain this move, I would say we need to hold above, just say this 5,073, 5,088, and then perhaps, maybe there's another overthrow move. Maybe there's more. There's one camp saying we're going back to all-time highs in the next 2 weeks. There's another saying we're going to stall here and come back lower. At this point, I think that both sides have a little bit of a leg to stand on, but we'll take it, day by day. I think what's going to matter today after the close is going to be AMD and NVIDIA. AI semis are, the hot sector. AMD just had a bit of a rally, not a huge rally, so it's not, it's not like something that's been elevated at all-time highs, priced for perfection. It just gave you a bit of an oversold bounce into what this trend line will be. So the question is, how solid is their earnings? What's their guidance going to be? Did China stop taking their chips? This and that. It's going to be important. Then you have SMCI, which also gave you an oversold bounce into this downtrend line. You could, make this downtrend line further. There is some chatter doesn't mean it's real out there that they might announce a stock split. And I think it would be kind of cute if they still beat and raise, but they didn't do it on the day that they thought when they announced it, which is what happened here. If we were down here, I would definitely be taking some kind of lotto spread just in case. Up here, this I just don't feel like it's so. I'm not. I don't have FOMO here. Okay, what I've been doing, I don't know, so, Tony. They're saying now instead of sell in May, buy and stay. Could be that's what Daniel Zanger, my buddy, says from Chart Pattern, perhaps. But anyway, um, so here's your big downtrend line. So I'll go over a plan later. We'll see how it goes. What I am still in is I'm in NVIDIA. To me, NVIDIA moves when it wants to move, pays you when you're right, and it's just a little bit easier to grab than an SMCI, and it trades a lot better than an AMD. So for me, you had an inside day yesterday. Wasn't the easiest day. There was a little bit extra fast money there because everyone was being cute, thinking that after 60 minutes, it'll be up $15 more on top of this 2-day move. It wasn't. I had a little extra too much too. I lost money in the video yesterday. I didn't trade it right. It happens. For today, we'll see if we get an inside day. It's only down 5 or 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Bible down 5, goes green, and then this 883 is a big level. I don't know if it's going to be able to take it out prior to an AMD and SMCI. So what I did yesterday is I traded it and I accumulated some options for Friday. Because for me, listen, if SMCI, delivers, or AMD, this could be easily 907-ish. And I want to make sure I'm involved for that move. If they miss, if it's lukewarm, if they talk about, a little bit of a hiccup in the next quarter, it could be down 40, and I don't want to be down 40 points. So, fortunately and unfortunately, A, I'm going to be here while the news comes out, and B, what I'll probably do is I will accumulate a little bit more options. So this way, if both of them are up a lot, I'll make money. And if they're down a lot, who knows? Maybe you could then buy the stock because, then just not as good as NVIDIA. So that's like my thought process going into NVIDIA. But ultimately, I would think it gets a little bit tighter today ahead of that. As far as like people like Red Dog, Google had a big pro gap and it didn't hold it, and so did Microsoft. Okay, it didn't. So the trade changed. Google had a gap here, right? This gap was this entire thing. And guess what? Now this gap is like this. Okay. It had a big move to the highs. Maybe it was too much. All I know is that I wasn't in Google, but if you were, you had to stop out. And now, I think Google might be interesting here. Google, it's up 30 cents. I was going to think if it's down, maybe, the story here is not over. They just delivered, they a dividend, the buyback. So I would think that this dip is viable in Google, maybe, versus low, or maybe it pushes below, comes back above, etc. I'm just saying, if you sold some strength, whatnot, fine. Microsoft, it had a gap here. It's over. There's no pro earnings gap there now. That trade is done. People like, where do you put your stops? How do you do it? I'm like, when the trade changes. So if you're in this for a pro earnings gap, that gap is now gone, and it's just, in a big range, and we'll have to figure out what's next, and it'll help because Microsoft is a leader. I will say Snap is still in the pro earnings gap, right? Snap did well yesterday. I actually bought the dip. I'm still long Snap. I got paid very handsomely with the options. So as long as it holds this 1378, I will stay with it because that means the trade is still intact. And if it happens to take this out, cool. Okay, so that's something that didn't change, right? And then some guys were like, hey, I'm buying every dip in Meta. I stayed away yesterday. At this point, Meta is still in the penalty box. It's still, has a pro earnings gap above it. It kind of went below 431, came back above it. You could put this here now. It's still above this 414, which was the post earnings low. It's just taking its time. So at this point, you don't want to overtrade it, but you want to watch it because the Meta story is probably not done either. But if you're actively in trade for the living, you got to know what you're looking at and why. So what's Meta doing this morning? Meta is down another 3. So here's 428. It's at 429. If you wanted to say, hey, I'm going to buy it verse 428, it's defined. If it breaks below 428, you stay away. If it reclaims it and takes the pressure off, hey, maybe you have a good entry. So these are just some thoughts on some of the megas that I trade. As far as Tesla's concerned, it was my biggest winner last week, but I didn't have it into yesterday's big gap up. I was a little upset about it. It hurt, but I got over it. Okay, get over it. Control what you can control. Now what? Okay, Tesla, you have a big, big 2 gaps. You have the pro earnings gap right here. If you happen to have been long versus that, remember I talk about pro earnings gaps, defines risk. You got paid handsomely yesterday. You're like, Elon, you're back, my buddy. Elon, hey, look at him. Okay, if you said, hey, it just had a 3-day move, I don't want the risk, and you didn't take the risk, you can't be upset that you didn't own it. So it took me a little bit to get over that yesterday. But anyway, now you have 184.54. The stock is down a little bit, right? Where is Tesla? Tesla is down 280. Maybe it goes red to green for a good trade. Maybe you're long verse here, goes sideways. There was a hell of a lot of 200, options going off yesterday, like gazillions and gazillions. So chances are this move isn't over. Don't you love the analysts? They all downgraded it after earnings, and now you're up about 35%. Anyway, don't listen to analysts. Analysts have an agenda. But anyway, so this is 198. So we'll see. It might need a day or two in here. So there's lots of little things going on. And then you have Apple coming out on Thursday. Apple, gave you a big gap up. Apple's funny these days. It's got to go up, make it look good, to come below, to get you out, to come back up. And, I don't know. I bought some 170. What I buy for 177 half earnings. Options just for earnings, just in case it's a little better than feared. They come out with some kind of AI because, at this point, it's so hard to trade. And me with Apple. I think ultimately Apple's going to make a new all-time high at some point this year or maybe next year if you're an investor. But at this point, here's your weekly chart. It's been lagging. The PE's been coming down. I guess you got to go like this now because this is your new low. Here's your DT. Here's your downtrend line. This, so anyway, Apple's just taking its time, doing what it's got to do. But Apple comes back real fast when it wants to. If you're an investor in Apple for the past decade, this does not matter to you. If you trade it for a living, you got to know. Elon is not on the wall. No, he hasn't been on the wall since December 28th. He's been on the floor, but he moved back in the room. He was in the closet. I took a call spread in Tesla and all of a sudden made money, got out of the closet, and now he's sitting behind me. But anyway, gold, is a little predatory lately. If you remember, I called the top. I actually freaking called me. I'm gonna get a gold bug shirt. December, it was one of my best calls allocation wise, and then I came out on that Friday and I said gold met every target, 2,400 plus, GLD 220 plus. When it was a 222, I'm like, it felt like the fever just broke. And now gold's been in this, consolidation phase where it's just, it's just not where the action is, right? You had this huge wide range bar, and then it didn't take back more than half. Looked like it was going to flag, and then they friggin' gapped it below. And just like a pro earnings play, but this is obviously a metal, it never filled this gap. So no one was saying, hey, I'm going to buy this on sale because, I didn't have to take this pain. And now it's, continuing down a little bit. This is 213.87. Where's GLD? GLD is, down. It's just, listen, sectors come in play. They come out of play. You got to figure out how you want to approach it. But anyway, you have the Fed tomorrow. So there's a lot going on here. So listen, it's 6:45. Just to let you guys know, let me just go back to let me go to the SPYs for a second so you guys can look at that beautiful picture. By the way, we did really well with the SPYs. A lot of guys bought the SPYs when I bought the Blood in the Street account. I was buying the 499 calls, and now you have a high here. This is your low. And question is, does it get to this zone before perhaps turning lower, or does it continue just on a new trend? We'll see. Coin, I don't care about, to be honest. Bitcoin's been a pain. It's coming back into the 60,000. I lost money trying to buy a dip. I can go to Bitcoin if you want before I tell you what's cooking, as far as the rest of my week. Bitcoin is vulnerable. Bitcoin, if you're active and you trade for a living, it's giving you some signals to be careful. Right here, it looked like it was going to break out. It broke down. Right here, it looked like it was really, really tight. It broke below the moving averages. Then it held the bottom end of the range and then got stopped midway. So now if this doesn't hold this 59, 60,000 area, you're going to see a move down towards 54 or maybe even, down to here. And what does that mean for the market? Is it giving you a clue that risk is coming down? I don't know. Bitcoin takes a different description depending on what their narrative is based on. But the bottom line is if you buy Bitcoin every month for the next 10 years, you're probably going to do very well. The same thing with gold. If you're, an asset allocator, if you trade it for a living and you get paid in the end of April and you've been long Bitcoin thinking it's going to get above 71,000, you're down money and chances are you're not getting a check. And now, if it happens to, if you go to the weekly chart, you can get a little bit of a better look here. This wedge that we had up here seems like it's kind of breaking to the downside. Here's one support, and if that doesn't hold, there's look at it. This is the 8-day moving average. It was above the 8-day moving average this entire time. Now the 8-day moving average is curling down. Means be careful. So, but with that being said, listen, guys, my wife is going to Europe today with two of her best friends for 50th birthday parties. So what does that mean? That means that Red Dog's in charge of Chase Diggity Dog in the morning. So I'm going to be coming here probably around, instead of getting in the office at 6, I'm going to get in at 5. I'm going to do a lot of my charts and a lot of my stuff. But I'm not going to be able to do the 6:30 club for the next 3 days because I have to go home, make sure he's awake, get things together, take him to school, and come back. So chances are the 6:30 club is going to be at 9 o'clock the next 3 days. So just remember that. So at 6:30, you're like, where's Red Dog? He overslept. No, I didn't oversleep. I'm just taking care of more business so my wife can go away with her friends for a 50th birthday party. So I'm Daddy Daycare, Daddy Markets, Barrel Boy, Iron Man guy, whatever you want to call me. In the street, people are like, hey, there's the barrel guy, or hey, there's Mr. Market. Or, you want to call me, but just don't call me a jerk, because I'm not a jerk. I try my best. That's all you could do. But anyway, with that being said, here's your big support on Bitcoin. We'll see what happens today. The SPYs are only down 30 cents. I think Tesla goes green. Wouldn't surprise me if Nvidia, could go green, but you got to, have AMD and SMCI after the close, and then you have the Fed Wednesday-ish, and we'll see how dovish or hawkish. Some people think he's going to be super duper hawkish because it was supposed to be 3 cuts, and now it might be 1. Some people, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have our levels, and let's just cross that bridge when we get there. But this is what I'm going to leave you guys with. It takes a community more than 2.